Hey guys, welcome back. So 3 months ago I reviewed the Realme 7 Pro, a phone that I actually really like. Now there was a Realme 7 as well, I didn't review that one. However, there is a new Realme 7, which is this one, the Realme 7 5G. So it's also still a non-Pro version, however this one has 5G support. So this is just the first of actually 3 different reviews that I'm going to be doing. The other one is with this actually. So this is the Realme Watch S Pro. I already reviewed the Watch S, and also the Realme Buds Air Pro. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss those videos as well. Alright, now before we talk about the phone, very quickly in the unboxing, of course you get the phone, you get this sort of case. Now the case also comes together with the phone, alright, but not just that, so you also get your regular documentation. The case actually comes inside here. Like I mentioned, you got your documentation, alright, and you also get a Type-C cable for charging over here, and you also get a 30-watt dart charger, alright, which is huge, but I guess they're all about the same size. Alright, anyway, let's put the box away. So looking at some of the specs, so this has a MediaTek Dimensity chip, so specifically the Dimensity 800U. Now this is only the second MediaTek chip that I've ever reviewed on a phone. The other one was a Dimensity 1000, which I think is their flagship, so this is just one step down. But apart from that, it also has 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. But anyway, looking at the design of the phone first, so I'm just going to remove the case. And in terms of the back of the phone, it is basically identical to the Realme 7 Pro that I reviewed. It has this really nice back to the phone. It has more of a matte finish, so it's not as much of a fingerprint magnet, although as you can see, it still has a bit. I really like this line over here. The module for the camera also again pretty identical, although the sensor itself is not the same. Now talking about the battery, this has a whopping 5000 milliamp hour battery, alright? And battery life is honestly fantastic. After 2 days of use, I still had about 20% left, although it wasn't really heavy use, light use, but still, even then, really impressive. And like I mentioned, it does have a 30-watt dart charger, which, from dead till about 100%, I charged it in about an hour. Alright, so looking at the display, it is actually slightly bigger than the Realme 7 Pro. So the Realme 7 Pro had a 6.4-inch screen. This one is a 6.5. Now both the screens on the Realme 7 5G and the Realme 7 Pro both have a resolution of Full HD, or specifically Full HD Plus, because of the aspect ratio, but that's just about where the similarities stop. Now the Realme 7 Pro had a Super AMOLED display, which I really like, and the refresh rate I think was a regular 60Hz. Now this one is actually an IPS LCD screen, so it is a step down. However, you get a whopping 120Hz. So the Realme 7 5G uses Realme UI, obviously, which is based on Android 10. And honestly, having used the phone for I think almost a couple of months now, it is very similar to Oppo's ColorOS, almost identical in a lot of ways, but that's not a bad thing, alright, because ColorOS is actually my favorite skin on any Android phone. So if you're wondering how this MediaTek Dimensity 800U chip performs, well, I can tell you out of the box and using it for a couple of months, absolutely no issue. It is very snappy, very smooth. Opening apps, not a problem at all. Everything opens up really quickly, although I need to update this. But everything else opens really snappy. I didn't have a single issue of any stuttering or any lag whatsoever. And of course, with that 120Hz refresh rate, it just makes any phone feel a lot smoother. Alright, so video consumption on this phone is good, not as good as the Realme 7 Pro, of course, because the Realme 7 Pro has a Super AMOLED screen, whereas this Realme 7 5G uses an IPS LCD screen. Now, as far as IPS LCD screens go, it's fine. It's good. If you don't have an AMOLED screen right next to it, I think it might be okay. But for me, using it and watching videos on it, it's still okay, but does not compare at all or comes close to an AMOLED screen in terms of your contrast ratio and color vibrancy. So for the rear camera of the Realme 7 5G, you get a 48MP main camera, you get an 8MP ultra wide, a black and white portrait lens, as well as a 2MP macro lens. And talking about the selfie camera, so it's one of those punch hole cameras in the front. I like that it's on the side and not in the center. But in terms of quality, it uses a 16MP selfie camera. So like most phones in this price bracket, I would say that getting good pictures out of this phone is very dependent on your lighting conditions. So in good daylight, you get pretty good shots. Now, a lot of pictures are quite sharp. Colors don't exactly pop out, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, having said that, there is still some color inconsistencies when you take pictures and you compare the main shot to an ultra wide. And at night, well, forget about it. There were so many pictures that I took that was so different between the main and the ultra wide that honestly in some ultra wide pictures they were basically unusable. Now in terms of video, you can shoot all the way up to 4K resolution, which is great. However, if you want to include image stabilization, that's only available on 1080p. However, calling it image stabilization is a little bit of a stretch. Now, even in daylight, when I walk around slowly holding the phone with both hands, a lot of the jitter that you get on the video caused by the image stabilization working is just very, very distracting. And honestly, I do hope this is something that Realme can look into to improve. So the Realme 7 5G comes in at about 469 Singapore dollars, and well, this is where it gets a little interesting because the Realme 7 Pro can be had for about $30 more at 499 Singapore dollars. So to me, the Pro moniker is a little lost on me with these two phones because both of these phones offer premium features that the other one doesn't. Like on the Realme 7 Pro, you get a Super AMOLED screen and you get a better camera. On the Realme 7 5G, you get a bigger battery, you get a smoother screen, and you get 5G support, which by the way, the Realme 7 Pro does not. So after thinking about this for a while, I realized that, Realme actually might have just made, albeit maybe unknowingly, they might have just made a really good budget gaming phone. So think about it, this phone has a high refresh rate screen, it's got a really, really big battery, really good battery life, the chip definitely does the job good enough. Plus, you get 5G support when if you're playing games outside when you don't have Wi-Fi is actually really important. So yeah, if you're a big phone gamer and you don't have the money to fork out on some of those really expensive gaming phones, this is actually a really good viable option. Alright, so that about wraps up my review of the Realme 7 5G. Now, if you like this video, you know what to do, and I would love it if you were subscribed to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications on our next video. I'm JP, and I'll see you real soon.